My name is Kyle Hagstrom. I am the program director for the Retired and Senior Volunteer Program. That was kind of funny. I almost had to look at a card to remember who I was. But anyway, I would be remiss, although I do want to speak to you about the Retired and Senior Volunteer Program. It's important to me that I just make you aware, and in your bag there you'll see this flyer. I'm not asking you to get it out, but it's there for your reference for later. But it's important to me that we make mention of the fact that GECAC is not just older adults and aging programs, but in fact we do have programs for youth. For example, we have like Summer Jam that we run. We have some employment programs for youth that we are a strong participant in. Right up until recently, we had a re-entry and re-engagement program for those people leaving the prison areas. But when we say GECAC, we don't mean just aging, and there's a big, huge misconception in regards to that. So I just wanted to make that clear to both of you. We do have a multitude of aging programs, and when you get the chance to look at it, we cover everything from like an apprised it was called Apprise at one time. Now it's called PA Med. And that's just a Medicare counseling thing that they always allow, that gives people the best options without actually pushing one insurance on you over another, and it's not biased in any one way. And that's just one example. GECAC has a portion of our services is devoted to home delivered meals, making sure that people in the community are receiving a decent meal. And usually that can be upwards of a 7-day process. When I mention home delivered meals, though, I do want to be clear that we do not deliver meals just for nutrition. Although a meal, you think meal and you're thinking nutrition and you're thinking that's its purpose. No, although that is a benefit, the purpose is to making sure that individual is safe and making sure that person's not isolated. Social isolation that may be the very first time I've said that I haven't had to go back and re-say it, because those two words together, social isolation, twice in a row, I better not push my luck, is something that is of a strong detriment to society right now, and we want to make sure that people have that opportunity to meet, and that's just with the home delivered meals program. In Erie County, we do have 7 senior centers that we are actively running. In fact, we participate in a few others as well that are individually run or privately run through other organizations, but we have an impact that we make in those areas. And those are just a few examples. I encourage you, one of the greatest parts of the aging program is the option program, which enables people to receive some services and still maintain their home. That is, in fact, an income-based program where people, there's a care plan that care managers will develop, and it doesn't equal a lot. It could equal, a couple hours a week of home service or help housekeeping, or it could be more detailed in receiving and helping people receive some personal care, assisted bathing. There's some aspects of it that include medication setup, oftentimes becomes a real problematic issue for some people. Lisa and I are here today as representatives of AmeriCorps Seniors. Now, AmeriCorps Seniors is a grant that GECAC runs and operates. Had it for a long time, and we just resubmitted our grant, and so we're waiting for word for that for the next 3 years. One of the things that I try to mention, everywhere you see it, you're going to see 55 and older in regards to volunteer programs. I'm not calling it that anymore. I hate the word older. So as far as I'm concerned, we are 55 and better. So going forward, if we're going to refer to ourselves as 55 and better. My program, or the program that I deal with, and Lisa's program is separate, but the program I deal with is called the Retired and Senior Volunteer Program. I currently have about 23 sites that I work with in helping. Basically, I become a liaison with an individual that wants to volunteer, and I speak with that individual and find out what their interests are, find out how they'd be best played. If a person has an interest in crafts, I have 2 sites almost essentially dedicated to crafts. One of them is someone you probably have heard of, and that's Santa's Helpers. They make wooden toys that distribute to underprivileged and those people that could quite possibly find themselves without a toy at Christmas. Another group that deals with crafts is called the Sunshine Group, and they literally prepare thousands of gift baskets that go to shut-ins, homeless, or a multitude of people. So there's a lot of good work being done through volunteering in our community. There are so many benefits for a person to volunteer. Number one, there's the obvious benefits, the benefits to community. Number two, there's a chance for the individual that will be doing the volunteering to not be stuck at home. And again, we're looking to decrease social isolation. Studies prove that if you are a volunteer and if you're spending your time, sometime, for the most part, your mental state, your cognitive state, and all those health issues around are sometimes alleviated and assisted by the fact that you're staying busy and you're staying active and you're participating. One of these sites, well, 3 sites that I currently work with, I have volunteers that participate at Second Harvest Food Bank. I have volunteers that participate at Kearsarge Food Pantry and at West Mill Creek Food Pantry as well. Parts of my program are the Retired and Senior Volunteer Program, and there's another word I'm trying to eliminate, is the whole retired word, because again, it gives this impression that only people that are retired are eligible. That is not the case. Currently, in this day and age, people over the age of 55 are oftentimes at a point in their lives that they still need to work. And so there are some issues that I try, and again, that's where I go to 55 and better. And those are the people that I'm looking to participate. If you ever have an interest in volunteering and are interested in knowing more about places I serve, food pantries, senior centers, crafts, I also have about a dozen, almost 20 volunteers now at Asbury Woods. So there's a lot of different components that go into volunteering, and we would never try to place somebody in a position that they're not happy with. And that's where we start. As a Retired and Senior Volunteer Program, we're gonna start with what the person's interests are. And then we'll go from there. And the goal ultimately for me is to put a person in a place where they're going to thrive cognitively, socially, and have an opportunity, as well as develop a greater network of friends that they can rely on. One of the benefits of the program are, number one, while you are serving as a volunteer, there is a insurance policy that covers you for volunteering in case of any accident, in case of any injury. There is a small mileage stipend that we pay to every individual, and it really doesn't amount to anything more than the mileage rate, which right now is 58.5 cents per mile, and I pay to and from. However, unfortunately for right now, that dollar amount maxes out at $15. $15 a month might not seem like a lot. Still, I have people at, well, for example, Gladstone Library, that little bookshop area that they run, that's all volunteer driven. And they wouldn't volunteer unless they had some assistance getting to and from. So $15 might not seem a lot in regards to mileage, and I don't mean to scare you off there.
No, I'm not in the position, I need to volunteer, so thank you for your
I'm
talk.
very good.
So, thank you.
But anyway, thank you.
Mhm.
Anyway, so if ever you have a need, I have cards up here, if ever you have a desire to learn something more, and that's another aspect of the retired and senior volunteer program. It may give you the opportunity to learn a little bit more about some of the things that are happening in the community. With the next grant, we hope to expand some of our opportunities, including like a friendly visitor, and even a telephone insurance program. Those things are written into the next grant. So that is, in a nutshell, the retired and senior volunteer program. And as Lisa goes on with her ideas or her program things, I'm gonna say, oh yeah, that's gonna count for me too, because I will have forgotten something. So I'm gonna pass it off to Lisa Anderson, our foster grandparent director.
Hi, everyone. I'm gonna sit still, huh? It's just, for me, it's like a little more comfortable, I think, than standing over you. But I'm the director of the foster grandparent program. Foster grandparents is celebrating, louder? Okay. Foster grandparents is celebrating 50 years this year, being sponsored by GECAC. So it's a great celebration. We've helped thousands of children in the Erie area. And one thing I want to say right off the bat is foster grandparents, I think, is a very misleading title to my program, because when you hear foster, you think of living in, and that is not the case. Foster grandparents work in or volunteer in a educational setting, whether it be the classroom or child care center. And they help at-risk, low-income children. So it might be somebody that is just having trouble focusing on that teacher. You know, they might get up in the classroom and wander around, and they just need help, you know, saying, you need to sit and look at Mrs. Smith, you know. It might be somebody struggling with reading or math, where our foster grandparent can be a tutor or a mentor. It might be somebody that, especially in preschool, a lot of times the kids come and they don't have social skills, or they don't have manners, or they don't know how to share. These are some of the things that foster grandparents can work with children. Our program is funded by AmeriCorps Seniors. Like Kyle said, we just submitted our 3-year grant. In order to be eligible for my program, you need to have criminal background checks, because you are working closely one-on-one with children. We pay for all of that. I guide you through it because it is a complex process. You know, even I struggle with it. But we pay for all of that. When you clear your clearances and everything comes back okay, we put you through a physical and a tuberculosis test. So it's actually kind of a perk, because you get an annual physical. And then once you pass your physical and your tuberculosis test, we have a 20-hour orientation. And that is right at our GECAC office. And it basically just goes over policies of the foster grandparent program, and also how to work with children, how to communicate with children. And the nice little perk about this is that you are paid a stipend for it. So coming into the orientation from day one, you're paid a stipend. It's not a ton of money. We're not gonna get rich out of it, but it's $3 an hour. It's to offset the cost of volunteering. And you also get paid a mileage, which, you know, is the 58.5. Unlike Kyle's, mine is unlimited. I have a lady that comes in from Girard, and she volunteers at Erie First Christian Academy. You know, so yeah, she travels 40 miles a day. So she gets reimbursed, you know, for that gas. Right now, with it being over $4 an hour, I'm not even sure that that covers it, but you know, that's just kind of like a little perk. And then also we have the accident insurance. We do have numerous recognition events. Just last Tuesday, I had normally Kyle and I combine our volunteer luncheon, but with COVID, that usually looks like 250 people, and we didn't, want to do that, so I had my foster grandparents in a luncheon. We had about 40 people up at the Shrine Club. They got a gift card, they got awards for 10, 15, and 20-year by a volunteer that's almost 22 years. So the nice thing about that stipend as well is it doesn't count towards any government programs you're receiving. So, and it's not taxable. So that's according to like a public law. And many people, especially the ones in subsidized housing, the manager hears, oh, I volunteer for foster grandparents, I get paid a stipend. They think that they can use that for income, and they cannot. So it's basically pocket money for you, to kind of, like I said, offset the cost of volunteering. So if you get SNAP benefits or assistance with heating, in subsidized apartments, anything like that, the stipend does not count towards that income. They don't figure it in. So with COVID, it's been very difficult because obviously schools were shut down for a year totally. Our volunteers are 55 plus, so they're in that at-risk group for COVID. So after the first year of being shut down, or in the process of being shut down, I purchased electronic tablets through our grant. And I trained 40 volunteers on the Samsung tablet, and we were having monthly in-services, because one of the things that the foster grandparent program requires is that to continue it on a yearly basis, you have to have at least 24 hours of education. So we have our in-services via Zoom every month, and that hasn't stopped. Come July, we're starting to do in person. Knock on something wood, that things continue to improve. But we will be having our in-person in-service. We usually have it at the Senior Center West on West 8th Street. And we provide a lunch and usually a program. And it's like Kyle said, it's good fellowship. It's good socialization. Even last week at my recognition, that was the first time that everybody was together since COVID began. And it was just nice to see everybody engaging again and talking. I think, people really miss that. They're social creatures. So we have people that, we have an accumulation of hours. We count our hours every year. And we have people that have over 20,000 lifetime hours. So I think last week when I did our recognition, I totaled everybody's lifetime hours, and it came out to over 187,000 hours. So it's quite, if you volunteer in any capacity, or if any volunteer volunteers, they'll say, I'm only a volunteer. Don't diminish what you do, because collectively as a group, look at what the impact is. Children come up to my foster grandparents, they move on, they come up to my foster grandparents in stores, and they'll say, Grandma Mary, it's so good that they remember them. So they do influence these kids. And the kids, they suck that up, they suck that energy up. So they're in the classroom, you don't discipline, you don't do anything like that. You're there just to support the child. You're never alone with a child. Teacher's always in the classroom. So you don't have to worry, it's for your safety and for the child's safety. So any questions? Anything I've missed?
What are the ages of the children?
Oh, anywhere from pre-K all the way up to 17 years of age. So, yeah, most people like to work with the little ones, but other foster grandparents, they prefer 4th, 5th grade, just because the little pre-Kers, they like to share a lot. They're all over you and hugging and wiping the nose and doing all that stuff. Some people prefer the older children.
Are there any in these schools in our area?
I have 2 volunteers actually at St. James, and I was just talking to Karen, the director, because, we've been involved with the Y in the past, so I'm hoping to get some volunteers here at the Y for their summer camp. But yeah, we have, St. James, but I'm always looking for different sites. So, you're from this area? Yeah. So now that school's a little bit more opened up, you know, I can approach sites like maybe the Harbor Creek School District and such.
Lisa, I believe you mentioned 2 different settings in which foster grandparents might be serving: education and what was the other one?
Childcare centers.
Oh.
And really, because of COVID, she's called a portfolio manager. She manages our grant and us, and, you know, makes sure we can go to her with questions. AmeriCorps Seniors is being a little bit more liberal as far as actual sites. Right now, I just introduced the Wesleyville Baptist After School Program. Junior Achievement is another one. The Erie Children's Museum, they have summer camps. We're going to partner with them this summer. So we're kind of expanding our scope as far as sites go. Traditionally, it's been schools and child care centers. We've had, like I said, people, never at the East Side Y, but we've had volunteers at the Glenwood Y. We have 3 volunteers at St. Martin's Learning Center and their pre-K program. We had people at the Downtown Y and their pre-K program. So, yeah, the child care centers that generally do the pre-K.
And I took a quick glance at some of the information in our bag. Did I understand correctly that the commitment is generally something in the range of 20 to 40 hours a week?
Yes, your card, okay, it says 20 to 40 hours. In order to be considered active, it could be 5 hours a week, 5 to 40. On average, I would say people do 20 hours a week. These are kind of outdated though, and I'm looking to update these shortly. So it's anywhere from 5 to 40 hours a week.
Does it have to be year long, the whole year?
No, some people work just the school year. You know, I'll say, do you want to work the summer? And they're like, heck no. You know, I want to enjoy my summer. It just depends. It depends. Now, some of my foster grandparents are very low income, so they really depend on that stipend. So they work year round. Some people just want to do it because they enjoy it. They enjoy getting out. They enjoy engaging with the children. I think every single one of my volunteers will tell you they keep me young. They keep me young.
I'm just not here all the time, that's all.
Sure. No, that's, and like something like a junior achievement might be good for you because they're very flexible with their hours. You do it when you can do it, so.
Sounds good.
Any other questions? Well,
So follow-up
everything,
would be with you?
pardon me?
Follow-up would be with you?
Yeah, my card, we stuck our cards in the bag. Everything I pretty much went over is on this yellow card. Like I said, the only thing that is different is the 5 to 40 hours. And hopefully it doesn't have Benny Mitchell's name on it. I've been crossing it out and putting mine. But I'm going to be updating this.
How,
Yes.
do you have any placements?
Right here
Is-
locally? I'm trying to think, the closest thing that I work with around here would be, JFK, the senior center there. That's absolutely the closest thing I do around here, and primarily they just assist with distribution of meals and that kind of thing. After that, the closest thing I have would be 4-9 place in Northeast. I don't know if anybody's familiar with the 4-9 place in Northeast.
One of my favorites.
Isn't it? It's a really neat thrift store.
It deserved its own explanation. Currently, right now, I have 49 29 volunteers in 4-9 place. All 55 and older, / that, 55 and better. Providing work / that service, to the community. And the greatest thing about the 4-9 Center, and I could really promote them, is that all the money they raise through their thrift store goes out right back into the community. Goes right back into, they run a diaper program, they run VITA, the tax assistance, they run all these other programs and youth activities. It's a tremendous thing. Every penny of what goes into there comes right back out to the community, so it's pretty fabulous in that respect. And I give them kudos all the time. They traditionally run, the 49 volunteers I have it in that I work with in that building, they traditionally run $1,400 a month, because that's what they choose to do. And it's just a tremendous thing. Traditionally, the RSVP program before COVID was running about 75,000 hours a year. And for example, and I'll use them as an example, Santa's Helpers. Some of those guys, they live Lake City, and they'll drive all the way to West 12th Street every day. And they'll work from 6 a.m. until noon approximately. Literally, if I were to pay Santa's Helpers the full mileage of what they do, I have gentlemen in there that would be due easily $400 or $500. And literally, they put out 5,000, 6,000 toys come Christmas time. It's just an amazing, phenomenal thing. And they're just one of many. Asbury Woods runs, the volunteers I have through Asbury Woods, they probably run close to 1,000 hours. Chosen is the same thing. And Chosen, again, another fabulous organization. I don't know if you're familiar with them. If ever you have a need, walker, cane, whatever the situation is, our volunteers in that particular role, one of them will go out and drive around and pick stuff up all day long. Take them back to the facility, and they spend their time cleaning them up and getting them fixed and tightened and whatever needs to be done. And again, all that medical equipment, chairs, walkers, you name it, porta potty type things, redistributed back to the community. And it's phenomenal work. In the next grant period, 2 programs I'm hoping to establish. I've already kind of started the groundwork for them. I'm just waiting to be finalized and approved for the grant period. But I'm hoping to do some work with Rancher Hope. I don't know if you're familiar with what they do. Essentially, what a group of volunteers goes to somebody's house, they build a ramp for the person to have a wheelchair, to have access to outside. Again, phenomenal work. All this work done in our community that many times people have no clue about and don't even know. There's so many volunteer organizations that we try to work with. And in fact, one of the other things I'm trying to develop is a telephone assurance program. If a person wants to volunteer, wants to contribute, but doesn't have the capability of leaving the house, that does not mean that they can't do something. So if we're just calling, hey, how you doing today? I don't see, that's where it gets kind of tricky, because I don't want to put the volunteer in a position where they're in a place for that person's life. I mean, if there's a real crisis situation, and we're still working through the details of that. In your flyer that I handed out, one of the other services that I forgot to mention that's extremely important is the older adult protective services. Unfortunately, it's the program you have that you never hope to use, essentially. But unfortunately, right now, our older adult protective services, they are overworked. I mean, and in fact, they have to add staff practically every month because of current situations, not only just within the county, but training and all that kind of stuff to have backup and coverage. And it's a sad thing. It's the program you never hope to use, but you're glad you have it. I really try to mention this as often as possible. If you have a need and don't see an answer here, number one, on the flyer there is a helpline, and they will direct you if the answer's not apparent through the flyer. But I would also recommend to you, and I don't know how many are familiar with it, 211. The same way you would dial 911 if you had an emergency and had to call somebody, you dial 211, and that puts you right through to a United Way helpline where you can ask them anything. And they will,
Anything.
and they'll search the answer, and they may have to get back to you with the response, but they're usually very good. And it's something many people don't even know exists, and it's there, it's been there for quite a while. If you have any kind of computer savvy or access, you can check out United Way 211, that's always very helpful. And while you're on there, you're gonna get a pop-up for, I went on and on and on for 30, 40 meals a day to any given people, any number of people. Home delivered meals drivers, they're hitting 40 houses, people that are socially isolated, they can't. I'm gonna have to quit saying that word, I'm really testing my limits because I am said it well 3 or 4 times now. So I mean, there's any number of ways a person can volunteer, and it just doesn't have, and although I'm promoting the retired and senior volunteer program, if anybody were to call to me, I've had, in the past couple of weeks, for whatever reason, I've had people calling, saying, wanting assistance for their son or daughter, finding a volunteer spot. Generally, at that point, for those people, I'm working very hard to set them up with Second Harvest Food Bank, because they pretty much take everybody in. They do a lot of work through there. Any number of ways to contribute. Lisa mentioned recognition. Recognition is probably one of the top 3 things that is most important to me in regards to this program, because it's important that we take that time to say thank you for all you've done. Generally, I'm supposed to have about 400 volunteers registered through the retired and senior volunteer program. Right now, we're kind of below that. I mean, they're registered, but a lot of them just have not gone back, have not felt the safety to return to a public setting like that. So I'm still waiting for quite a number to go back, especially the one area that really hurt me and they haven't come back fully is Tom Ridge Environmental Center. They're not back fully, nor is the Maritime. So, I mean, in each of those places, they easily had 20 volunteers. Now it's 2 or 3 that are feel safe to go back. So, any number of people can contribute in any number of ways. It's not limited. And again, everything I do, I would never put somebody in a place that they're not wanting to be. If you just want to knit or just want to have something like that too, let me know. I would gladly set you up with the Sunshine Group or some other. I mean, they do, again, they'll easily do $1,000 a month. Ladies just putting together baskets similar to what you see out there at the giveaway or the raffle things. And it's just tremendous work that goes unnoticed oftentimes. Anything else?
One thing too that I neglected, sorry, is you don't have to, I mean, I do have a lot of retired teachers, but you don't have to be a teacher to do this program. You know, you just have to love kids and, you know, have the desire to help them, so just wanted to make that as well.
Please feel free, if you see something in the handout that we gave you, one of the handouts, I think we gave you like a whole load of handouts. We gave you about AmeriCorps Seniors, which is the largest organization for seniors over the age of 55 and better. Let's say that, I said older, so good today. But 55 and better. It is currently in the state of Pennsylvania. We have about, we definitely have over 1,400 sites that individual volunteers at. We want to say that number for volunteers is approaching 10,000. Nationwide, it's like 500,000. So volunteers that are registered through the AmeriCorps Senior Program. And AmeriCorps on the whole is not just AmeriCorps seniors, but there's VISTA programs. There's more towards students. There's other programs geared towards more community. AmeriCorps in itself is this huge monster, to say the least. So yeah, even if you want to look into see about AmeriCorps, welcome you to go in and check. AmeriCorps Seniors, its own little division of that. So yeah, and if you have any questions, please feel free to call myself or Lisa, and we'd be glad to set you in the right direction, whether it's volunteering or whether it's any of these other programs we can do that.
Okay.
Thank you very much.